Alrighty, it's time for a little tank talk. And we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly, so let's start with the unfortunate ugly in name only, the Paladin. The Paladin, while I say unfortunate as the ugly duckling of the tank group, is because its visual effects are absolutely stunning. The Paladin's visual effects are the best out of all of the tank classes, by far. Passage of Arms is incredible. Its visuals are fantastic. Graha Tia uses this spell in cutscenes constantly because of how good it looks. This thing is rad. Then you go to your defensive abilities. In a second, I'll have enough gauge to show you Holy Sheltron, which is basically a mini LB3 for your Paladin in terms of visuals. It looks really damn cool. And most importantly of all that everyone knows and loves from the release trailers is the Confiteor combo. This thing looks incredible. It looks amazing. It's so fucking cool. And it sucks. It sucks, dude. Oh, I hate that it sucks. I hate that it sucks, man. Regardless of how balanced it is, because I believe it needs to receive a bit of a buff personally, regardless of how balanced you think it is, it looks incredible. But my biggest issue with it is it should also feel incredible, and it doesn't feel incredible. You have a 900 potency, no mitigated AoE that just fucking shreds anything near it. And then you have a fourth of that as damage. Then you have maybe a third of it in damage, a little above. Not even half of it in damage. And a decent potency dot? Why a dot? Just do damage, man. You don't need to have a dot. Paladin does decent, consistent damage, but I just don't like it, dude. I don't like how front-loaded it is, and it's front-loaded because this spell was designed to be the big pop-off that you get at level 80. Holy Sheltron and Expression! It even looks pretty cool. It turns your spirits within into a nice little AoE, restores MP. Even another good effect for the Paladin. It looks great, but man, does it just not stand up. The only thing the Paladin has going for it is Hollowed Ground, because it makes you immune to all damage, although that is now balanced by the fact that the recast timer is higher, and it's not even as good as some of the other invulnerability effects in the game. Like Super Bull-Eyed is incredible now, which has a far shorter recast timer. But the other Holmgang also got buffed. Living Dead is still absolute piece of shit unless you have a White Mage in the party, which White Mage is also currently one of the lesser healers because of its shitty mana regen. But back to the Paladin, it just doesn't have much going for it. And if you look at logs, which I do, while I understand and while I know that most of what I'm saying in terms of its effectiveness and its efficiency, which you should keep in mind, most of what I'm saying doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It really doesn't, unless you're doing week 1 savage progression. This shit doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You can use it in any content, almost all the content except for the highest tier rating endgame shit. This thing is fine. It's good. It does its job. It looks cool. Most people like it. But unfortunately, it's absolute trash. On a side note, one of the things my friends mentioned to me, which I thought was hilarious on thinking about it, in the expansions, or actually, I'll do a non-spoiler version of it, Hydaelyn uses Dancer weapons, Paladin weapons, and White Mage weapons, all three of which are the respective worst in all of their categories, which I think is hilarious. But just as a side note, I just think that's fucking hilarious, man. It's so goofy. But in terms of how the class plays, in terms of playing it efficiently, Paladin is pretty difficult to actually play really efficiently to the max level. There's a lot of timings involved, you have to have a lot of uptime involved. You can snapshot passage of arms so you can help your teammates during a AoE while also not losing your combat timer, which if you miss time, your team's taking an additional 15% damage, which is rough. So it has a lot of interesting ways to play it, and compared to every other tank in the game, no other tank is allowed to hit the boss and then be a ranged character for up to 9 globals, which can be useful in its own accord, but when you're talking about raid situations, 90% of the time being this far away from a raid boss and being able to hit it for 5k doesn't really matter if you're a tank. You're going to be on the boss, you're going to be positioning, you're going to be tank swapping. The Paladin just falls short in almost every single category outside of its visuals and aesthetic, really. As one of the only classes in the games that has shields outside of the original Black Mage Thermitage, or were the only other classes that had shields originally, it is a bit of a letdown for me for sure, and a lot of people, myself included, were hoping to see buffs to it in 6.05. Prage, Mr. Yossi P, we see buffs to this thing in 6.1. because boy does it need it. I don't think additional gear is going to scale any more efficiently with this class to make having BIS any more worth playing this in any kind of raid scenario. Paladin is unfortunately a stinker for me, but to the future, hopefully it improves. Now moving on to our, or at least my number 3 on the list. However, if I liked playing it more, it would definitely be my number 2 on the list. The number 3 for me is Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker received probably the best quality of life change in that your Gnashing Fang combo just rotates off of one button. This combo used to be 3 separate buttons, and man, did it suck. Man, did it suck when this thing was 3 separate buttons. I just realized I should probably have game sounds on, and I'll turn it down a bit. Enter BGM off. But man, that quality of life feature already put this class up a point for me. But right now, it is a bit on the frustrating side depending on how things go. To play this class at a very efficient level, you must hit your Mercy Strike timer, you must hit Blast Zone every single time on cooldown to fit correctly within the No Mercy window. You can't fit literally every button you have within the No Mercy window because it's only 20 seconds and run out. And if you ever fuck up, double down, and don't get it in the No Mercy window or get it in at an improper time, which you shouldn't if you're playing efficiently, but if you do, like the Paladin, if this class gets off its rotation, it feels really bad. Like if the boss goes invulnerable and you miss, and you miss it, it feels really bad when you get off rotation on this class. And for me, that puts it down lower than Warrior and Dark Knight, my favorite 2 tanks, because in terms of how you play it, the efficiency, the uptime required, everything is kind of shoved within that 60-second No Mercy window, depending on a boss transitions, which have been happening on 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute windows. It could really fuck up your timing and your rotation, which can be annoying. It's at a number 3. However, compared to the other tanks, Gunbreaker is the best off-tank in the game for me currently. Mainly because of Heart of Corundum. Heart of Corundum, everybody thought was going to get nerfed because it is actually as insane as it looks. It is incredible. This thing, for 4 seconds, if you hit it within the right timer, gives 30% damage reduction on top of a 900 Kier potency Excog effect. That is nuts! All of that in a 25-second button. This fucking button by itself is insane. And I mean, Double Down's got 1200 potency, which is pretty fucking good in its own right. Like, this thing does a lot of damage. In the current set, Gunbreaker is number 2 on the damage meters, which most people, or not most, but a lot of people are probably running Dark Knight Gunbreaker as their main tank off tank. The only thing annoying about that combo is Heart of Light does overlap with Dark Missionary. And by overlap, they just, I mean, stack effects. I think both can be applied at once, but stacking effects of the same type is considered bad. But you can stagger these effects for different AoEs, so it's not like it matters. Super Bull-Eyed got a insane buff, moved up to 10 seconds, and it's a 360 recast. This thing is incredible for many, many mechanics. You don't even need to have a white mage like Living Dead to Benny you. You can literally just get passively healed up after using this fucking thing. It's incredible. This class has a lot of really good buttons. And on the third ability, it has Camouflage. I say third ability as its third defensive. Paladin has Passage of Arms, Warrior has Thrill of Battle, and Dark Knight has Dark Mind. Dark Mind is in a very weird spot for me, but we'll get to that. Camouflage is a flat 10% damage reduction on top of a parry for 20 seconds. It's basically Rampart Light, but if you're fighting something doing physical damage, it's just as good or even a little better than Rampart. So Camouflage as a third ability is number 2 as far as the defensive cooldowns go. And we'll talk about number 1 on the next class. But overall, I think Gunbreaker's in a very good spot. It's not doing the most damage out of all the tanks, but it's kind of in the middle of the pack. It's just a little bit above Warrior, but I believe Warrior has a little more utility than it otherwise, than Heart of Corundum being absolutely insane. And if you like feeling like playing a DPS, this class is great for you because you're clicking a lot of buttons. You're hitting this continuation button a lot, especially with the evolution of Burst Strike giving you a continuation to Hyper Velocity. So overall, this class is my number 3. However, it is very, very damn good. I would say all of the tanks, excluding Paladin in terms of like endgame Savage content currently, are incredibly viable and very, very good. You can still clear stuff on a Paladin, but you can do the things the Paladin can do far better while doing far more DPS playing other tanks. Now, moving on to my dungeon tank. I do not play this in raids, but the dungeon tank of the day being Warrior, because it just simply heals. It heals some more. Do you need healing? Do you want healing? You all get healing, because holy shit, this thing just heals like a motherfucker. It is so goddamn good. In a dungeon, you don't even need a healer. If I could run an EX roulette with just me and 3 other DPS, I probably would, because this thing just trucks in terms of being able to heal your party, heal itself. But getting into its third defensive utility, which is not its 30% damage reduction or Rampart, Thrill of Battle is by far the best third utility for all of the tanks, in my opinion. You get 20% more health, heals you for 20% health, and you get 20% increased healing by all recovery actions by 20% for 10 seconds. This thing's really damn good, and if you want to squeeze a little more out of it, at the end of your Thrill of Battle window, you can use Shake It Off to add another 2% absorb to your already 15% absorb to the rest of the party. You can do some interesting things with Shake It Off on top of Thrill at the end of it, and I think this makes class very, very good. It is very defensive, it has a lot of health, it has a lot of healing, and the shielding it gives between Nascent Flash and Bloodwetting is pretty good. It is not the 30% that is Heart of Corundum. It is 20% for you or the party member you selected on, but the amount of healing you can give the other person does make up for not having that XCOG effect, on top of you having a 400 cure potency shield. on top of that. So Warrior's in a really damn good spot right now. It's a little below Gunbreaker, not nearly as difficult as Gunbreaker either. Warrior is very simple, very straightforward. They even removed the rage cost of upheaval and gave you an AoE upheaval, so it can be used in any situation effectively. Warrior is my lazy chill tank. I do this for my Wondrous Tales, I do this for my dungeons. If I'm helping somebody out, I'm playing Warrior because it's easy, it's simple, you're chilling, and you're crushing. Warrior by far is one of the best winners for me in the current expansion. And on top of that, you have a ranged gap closer that's a fucking front flip slam that you can do from cross court. Look at this thing. This thing fucking sick. It is so cool. And you're already getting big numbies because it does direct crits. So it does the max amount of damage it can when it hits. Time that with your team's 2-minute party buffs, and this thing slaps like a truck. Oh, Primal Rend is a great ability. On top of the knockback immune effect you get from in a release, Warrior's in a incredible spot for me right now. This is a class I'd even when re-clearing raids potentially if I'm not trying to parse monkey, and DPS is fine. I don't want to push the DPS envelope too much. Warrior is probably something I'm going to be playing for sure. But other thing to note, because of Warrior's ease of play, you might be doing more damage than a Dark Knight or a Gunbreaker because of how easy it is just to do everything right. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. Warrior also got another buff to its invuln, which its invuln is 240 seconds, allowing you to use this multiple times a fight, which is incredible. Although you do take damage downs, vuln stacks, whatever that comes your way, if you're getting hit while using this. And you're not immune like the Gunbreaker's Super Bolide, but even then, why do you need to be immune when you can just hit your equilibrium button and crit heal yourself for like 25k? Just up a third health. No, can't die, up a third of my health. Oh, sorry, up 50% of my health on with Thrill of Battle on top of that. They're chilling. You're big chilling. You're bing chilling. This fucking class owns. I love playing Warrior. It is definitely my favorite chill tank to play, and I would recommend it to anybody. Very new player friendly. If you're looking to get into playing tank, pick up the Warrior. Very easy to play, very forgiving, very efficient. Highly recommend. Really enjoying the class right now, even with its simplicity. Now let's go to the Dark Knight. My favorite, for one reason and one reason only, it has a big sword, and I like big swords. It's my favorite weapon archetype ever, and I would be playing this class whether it was a tank or a DPS. I was kind of wishing it was a DPS when we got a two-handed weapon class in Heavensward, but I like tanking anyway, so here we are. I love this class. It is my main class. I have played this thing forever. It is my favorite, and it's not the simplest thing to play either. There's a lot that goes into it, and I enjoy it quite a bit. When this class was originally introduced, and everybody saw, oh, what does it have? What's the class have? It's got Salt and Darkness 2, and fucking, I don't know, TBN, someone else again? All right, Shane, what did you bring to the class this week? I present to you TBN! Shane, that is the third expansion in a row you have presented me with TPN. Yes, because TPN fucking owns. No other tank has this kind of scaling mitigation because it's 25% of your target's max HP. The better gear you have, the better this is. In dungeon content, this can be annoying because you can literally absorb so much HP within this 7-second window that on some dungeon bosses, this shit might not even break. That's how good it is. But in terms of savage content, This thing is invaluable and absolutely insane in any type of in-game content. Holy shit. Yeah, it's TPN. Yeah, it's the same thing. But fuck me if it's not the holy grail of my favorite tank abilities. It is so goddamn good. And it's unique compared to every other tank that you can play with it. Play it main tank, play it off tank. This thing fucking owns. Oblation is also pretty good. Like I said, this class got fucking slandered hard, just like Scholar did when we saw the class preview. Everyone saw Paladin and went, oh, fuck! And everyone saw Dark Knight and went, fuck me, I'm not playing this class. Not this expansion. Going to Paladin, wait, Dark Knight does so much fucking damage. Dark Knight, while it didn't get a lot of anything new, Shadowbringer is basically Flood 2.0, right? It looks cool, it looks alright, but it's just another Flood. But to note, think about it. What did the other tanks get? What did the other tanks get? Paladin, from 80 to 82 got, or from 80 to 90 got Holy Sheltron and Confiteor combo. Expansion, it's just AoE, it does a little more damage now, whatever, right? Nothing too crazy. What do we get with Gunbreaker? Heart of Corundum, that owns. Double down, big damage, that's pretty cool. It does, that fucking owns, right? We got the ability from, what was it? E11S, the fucking, the Therancrid Rajin combo, big double down, big damage, looks cool. Sure, pretty good, right? And it also got the ability for hyper velocity within continuation. So it got some damage. What did Warrior get? Warrior got defensive button, AoE button, Primal Rend on top of being able to use it once a minute within a release, and it's a gap closer. Pretty good, right? Pretty good. What did Dark Knight get? Dark Knight not only got Salt and Darkness, it got Shadowbringers. Salt and Darkness is 500 potency single target. Shadowbringers is 600. Compared to the other tanks, this thing got the damage suite. Technically, Gunbreaker did get a bit more damage in terms of buttons, but Dark Knight being able to use everything and its rotation, this thing fucking crushes. It's good single target, it's good AoE. I absolutely love it. Some people say, well, it doesn't do as much healing as Warrior, healing as Paladin, but it does do more damage than Gunbreaker. However, shields are healing. This class was slandered. People hated this. People didn't care. And if you don't play higher end content and you just want the cool visual effects, which is totally fine and warranted, Paladin is there. The Warrior do super spinny flip is there. Gunbreaker got its double down, which is cool, but for me, the raw power of the Dark Knight, including it just being a two-handed sword, I really, really like this class. I was also initially worried that because they changed Abyssal Drain and Carven Spit to be shared buttons, these used to be individual cooldowns you could use since you put them all in your rotation, but they upped their damage to make them more efficient. The only grievance I have with Dark Knight, the literal only grievance I have with this class, well, I guess there's two, is that Living Shadow takes so goddamn long to do anything. When you pop Living Shadow, this fucking thing takes 7 seconds after being summoned to do anything. So it takes 3 globals minimum to get Living Shadow. Minimum. And most classes, after about 3 to 4 globals, will be using all of their 2-minute cooldowns. So after your 3-minute globals hit, you pop this. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, and 8. It finally did something at 8 seconds. So you're popping this around the same time as an Arcane Circle, as Brotherhood, right? And in doing so, you're losing out all of the power, or a lot of the bonus damage that you would get from those buffs on Living Shadow, which makes it kind of annoying for me in terms of efficiency, personally. If anything, I would either want, maybe not want Dark Knight to start with 50 gen, but I don't know, make this thing summon and just go. I don't think it needs 8 entire seconds to be able to do something. Cut that in half, 20-second duration. After 4 seconds, it starts going, and you should be solid. Maybe, I don't say rather a little shorter than that. But I just wish Living Shadow was a little more like a Living Shadow and not a slow boy. Not a slow boy, not a fan of that. However, the other obvious of the crew that is bad about Dark Knight, and people say is bad about Dark Knight, which I agree with, is Living Dead. But there's a problem. Here's a problem with Living Dead, and this is the same issue that it's had forever, which is if you use Living Dead correctly, it is by far the best tank invuln if you have a white mage. If you have a white mage. It is by far the best invuln of every single tank. Every other tank's invuln is 10 seconds. This thing can be up to roughly 19 seconds, 18 seconds if you want to be safe, maybe 17. You get 50% more uptime of this savior spell than anything else, because Living Dead starts, and the moment you hit 1 HP or would have died, Walking Dead starts. So once Walking Dead hits, you're now down to 10 seconds of life. But if you're playing with a white mage, benediction! You don't need to be healed. You can take all the tank busters you want for 15 seconds, and you're big chillin'. No problem. Easy peasy, right? So while Living Dead is obviously not the best, and not as useful as some of the other tank vulns in certain situations, it's got its own use cases and is very good. Very, very good. So as an overall for me, as far as the tanks are concerned, by far, Dark Knight, I think, is the clear winner here. Warrior and Gunbreaker are both very, very good and very, very valuable. Gunbreaker, to me, is just not necessarily my cup of tea. So unless it becomes the go-to big DPS best tank, which it shouldn't, unless Dark Knight also gets buffed on top of that. From how the kits are designed currently, the damage should go Dark Knight, Gunbreaker, Warrior, Paladin. But the main problem, as we've already talked about, is Paladin, while it's not the best tank in terms of damage, is way too far behind. And I think buffing up the Confiteor combo is probably the way to go. It might let it AoE cheese a little harder. But I mean, in terms of just single target damage, I just think Confiteor combo needs a bit of a buff, personally. It probably also needs a bit more... I'm not sure else what it needs, like what to specifically buff to bring it in line with the other tanks, because it does have that ranged utility. But that's where I would start looking at Paladin, personally. And I guess the last thing about Dark Knight, which is good and bad, technically, is Dark Mind. Dark Mind is very, very odd, in where it's only useful against magic damage, whereas every other tank's third utility is useful against anything. But because it's a 60-second cooldown, you can use it quite a bit. It's pretty damn useful, but you also have to know if you're being hit by something that's magic damage or not. Not all AoEs in the game are specifically magic damage. There's some physical, there's some magical, And there's no real good way to tell unless you're either staring at a battle log, which is going to be insane to try and read while you're doing combat, or you have to go in and look at logs and figure out what does what, and then plan it accordingly, which isn't that big of a deal for me, because I like doing that log shit. But overall, it's kind of a weird spell to use compared to all of the other tanks' third utility. But as a wrap up, I think that all the tanks are definitely doing well. All the tanks are definitely clear winners in each of their own respects. But Paladin just, it needs something, man, because Paladin is feeling a bit weak sauce to me. And to other people, as per its representative nature. And the main thing that makes Paladin feel weak to me is I thought the Confiteor combo was going to look cool and feel good, but when you're putting a dot on something and when the damage you do after your normal Confiteor is so low, just kind of feels like shit. Maybe they need to just buff its dots a little bit. I don't know. But anyway, that's it for me. I just felt like talking about tanks a little bit. After I have finished leveling all of the healers and all of the magic DPS, I might talk about them. Maybe. The main problem with me talking about healing and magic, basically talking about anything but like tank or DPS, is that I've never really done these roles in a like a difficult, like a savage setting or an ultimate setting. I've never played these roles ever in those settings. So my perspective on them might be far worse than it is on something like the tanks. But if you made it this far, thanks for watching. If you have your own input you'd like to add, feel free to toss them down in the comments. I will respond as well as I can. Getting notifications for when I get comments on shit's kind of weird, so might take me a bit. But I like talking about tank shit, so yeah. Anyway, have a good one. Peace.